It's been 13 hours since a white vehicle was driven into a crowd at a Berlin Pride event on Saturday night. One person has died and another 16 were injured. A manhunt is still underway as we begin this live stream. Beyond the search for the suspect is a parallel search for answers. And in Germany, it's unfortunately a familiar search for answers. Most revolve around the simple why, but perhaps more powerfully in this case, we ask why again. Anthony Howard here in the studio here in Berlin, alongside Rahpel Bossong, terrorism expert. We'll hear from Rahpel soon. We'll hear from police as soon as we have more. We have a reporter at the scene as well. But let's take a look now at what we know to this point. We know that police are searching for this suspect in connection with the ramming. In accordance with Germany's reporting guidelines, he has been named simply as Abdul B. The 21-year-old man has a slim build and black hair and was already known to police. The authorities are warning the public to avoid direct contact with the suspect, saying he may be armed and dangerous. Let's take a closer look at where the car ramming took place in the German capital. It happened at about 10 p.m. local time on the edge of the Tiergarten Park in central Berlin, a short distance away from the Brandenburg Gate, where the event's closing party was taking place. Part of the Pride Parade's route had taken it through that very park. Now, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz posted a message on social media this morning saying, "We are open and freedom-loving, and we will preserve and defend that. The act will be investigated and pursued with the utmost severity. My thoughts are with the victims and their families. I wish the injured a swift recovery and thank all emergency responders." Now, from the German Chancellor to the words now of Berlin's mayor. Here is what he had to say shortly after the attack.
Berlin, as a city of freedom and diversity, will continue to grow stronger and take a clear stance. We will not allow our way of life and our way of living together to be taken from us.
Right, time to go live to the scene in Berlin. Our reporter Julia Gießler is there. Jules, if you could start by taking us through the latest on the manhunt.
Hi, Anthony. As you can see, I'm at Tiergarten at the moment, and the area behind me is still cordoned off because police are still investigating the case. So far, what we know about the manhunt is it's still undergoing. As you said, there is a suspect that has been named, and there's also a photo of him out, and people like police are asking people for any hints. The manhunt is still ongoing. We don't have much further information on that, but it has been brought into the whole city. And now there are also reports that they're looking for one or maybe even two suspects, because there have been some reports last night that there were also some people being stabbed at around that time. So they're still unclear if they're looking for one or two suspects, but one suspect for sure, and that is Abdul B, the 21-year-old suspect you mentioned. He is still on the run, and we need to wait for further information, and we will update accordingly.
OK, so the possibility of a second suspect. Jules, the phrase we hear often in these cases and this time is that the suspect was known to police. What exactly does that mean in this case?
In this particular case, it means the police press person yesterday has said that he was known to be affiliated with Islamist circles and reportedly has just come out of juvenile detention a couple of months ago. This is what we know so far about the suspect. So he has been on the police radar, but the attack has not been announced beforehand as of what we know so far.
OK, Jules, we're coming up to 13 hours since the attack. Can you describe what's happening there now at the scene, and what can police hope to learn there now at this point in time that will take them towards the suspect, if anything?
As mentioned, so where I'm standing, the whole area is still cordoned off, and I don't know if you can see behind me, police is still working to identify, so they're closer to the vehicle that rammed into the tree. They're trying to still find out how he actually managed to get to where he got to, how he entered the Tiergarten and how he actually managed to drive at such full speed. Because area has been also cordoned off. Yesterday there were some road blockades, but now there are still quite a few open questions that need to be answered. And on a more personal note here, what I'm observing here at the moment is that more and more people are coming here, laying down flowers, laying down candles, and also the rainbow flag, one of the symbols of the queer community. You can clearly see that people are shocked, they're sad. I've seen some people crying, they're talking, they're whispering, they're all asking the same question. How was it even possible that such a joyful event could turn into such a tragedy today?
Jules, thanks for the update. We'll obviously stay in touch throughout the day and no doubt hear from you as soon as you have more for us. Thanks again. All right, having heard from the scene, let's go now to my guest, Dr. Rahpel Bossong, Deputy Head of Research Division for the EU and Europe at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, with a focus on terrorism, EU counter-terrorism policy and border security, all fields that are very much in play today. I wonder, Rahpel, how many of these events do we have to have in sequence before we say that there's a pattern here in Germany?
Well, this is already a pattern. I mean, this is about the 8th or 9th attack of this kind in Europe also more broadly. Unfortunately, this kind of improvised method of vehicle rammings is something that has, well, been a successful strategy ever since the attack in Nice many, many years ago, and also 10 years ago, 2013 and 2016 then in Berlin. And because we all use cars and you can't do all the background checks on every person who rents a car. This is something we cannot possibly always control. Thank goodness, I mean, I don't want to sound cynical here, but thank goodness this was only a sort of normal car and not like a large lorry as we had 10 years ago. The Islamic State early on always asked its followers to take any measure possible, improvised attacks, knives, cars, anything they can get their hands on. And although we don't know the affiliation of this particular suspect, that is definitely the pattern we see here.
Is there something in particular that makes Germany more susceptible? Why does it keep happening in Germany?
That's not quite true. I mean, we did have this particular string of attacks 2 years ago, just when the elections happened, but they're also diverse attacks. They were not all, most of them, but they were not all Islamist attacks. We have a high degree of polarization. We also have, as other European countries, a large group of, well, Islamic radicals, but also right-wing radicals. In that sense, I think we're in the mid to upper tier of European countries at risk. What is, in a way, surprising here, Germany was, at this point in time, particularly focused on the risk to Jewish targets because of Germany's continued political support comparatively to Israel. But this is not what we saw yesterday. So there you go. I mean, you have to have a 360-degree look around for all threats, and sometimes somebody slips through, as yesterday.
Right. For context, Rahpel, the question we ask as to why, again, let's take a look, and you referenced some of them, of the recent history of these type of events, a grim history and a relevant one today. Germany has experienced a series of deadly vehicle ramming attacks targeting Christmas markets, pedestrian zones, demonstrations and street events prior to the Berlin Pride attack. A few months ago, 2 people were killed and 3 others seriously injured when a car drove into a pedestrian zone in Leipzig. Last year, a car was driven into pedestrians in Mannheim city centre in the south of Germany, leaving 2 people dead and 11 injured. And in 2016, a truck attack at a Christmas market in Berlin killed 13 people and injured dozens. The attacks have prompted major security upgrades at public gatherings across Germany, yet despite these tighter measures, such attacks remain difficult to predict and highlight the ongoing challenges. I rode a bicycle through the area last night with my daughter, and if I could make one observation is that there were police by the dozens at every checkpoint. This wasn't for a lack of resources or effort to prevent this type of attack happening. Why are they so difficult to... Why is it, with all of those resources, that it's still so difficult to protect people?
Well, I mean, in this case, it probably depends on the precise time and locality. And again, I haven't been at the scene at the time, so I can't tell exactly, but, well, it's a large area. Tiergarten is very large. Right. And it was about time of closing of the ceremony. So maybe at that time already traffic restrictions were already somewhat more relaxed. And it is a critical traffic node through the city center. I mean, blocking it off for the whole time is severe restrictions. And Berliners are already used to having the main parade avenue being blocked, but people have to drive around it. And I think this is what seemed to have happened, that in one of those adjacent areas where traffic is rerouted, somehow the person found a gap. Maybe he's been circling before, it could have been, and just found the target to strike. But yes, I mean, police have been very present. And in other cases, there were clear gaps, so it's too early to tell. For example, the one you mentioned here in Magdeburg, there was a clear gap, so maybe we'll find out in a few days.
Reading some of the comments in the immediate aftermath of this event, something else that's a recurring theme, and I raised it with Jules, is not the mode of the attack, although it's relevant and we've seen it before. It's the frustration among the general public that comes with the phrase used by police, the suspect was known to police. The implication from those leaving comments is that if police were aware of this person or any suspect, why were they not able to prevent something from taking place?
Yeah, I mean, again, I fully understand that, and it's not to say, well, sort of we have to throw up our hands in, well, despair, but there are over 9,000 Islamic radicals with supposed violent inclinations in Germany. In other countries, there are also several thousands in European countries, and particularly in France. And the security authorities are doing a better job of monitoring them. We also have a lot of disrupted plots. We shouldn't forget that. But in this case, well, it seemed to have been a relatively low and minor figure with a prior criminal record, but no clear affiliation and no clear online presence, at least as far as we know, that he was declaring to attack. So, well, somebody who's just been released from prison, we have thousands of them. It's very hard to monitor.
Yeah, and I understand the position you're in this morning. It's so early and we're still gathering information clearly. What do you know that police have said about the suspect? We heard a little from Jules, known as Abdul B, and his connections. Do we know anything much more about his affiliations? And where do those affiliations and where do those beliefs leave the investigations? How do they assist in the investigations at this point?
So what has been known so far is just this general statement about Islamic radical milieu without a more specific organizational affiliation. I'm afraid I can't help any further at this point in time. I mean, the pattern we've seen in prior attacks was, well, once, 2 or 3 days later, there may be a video, there may be a claim, and then also at that point in time, we still have to investigate whether that claim is actually authentic, because sometimes terrorist organizations try to claim an attack even if it wasn't actually designed by them. So 10 years ago, with a Christmas market attack, this was taking 3 days till we found out, until there was actually the person found in northern Italy, not in Germany, and a video arrived. So I think we need to give it some time. But the profile, what we know, and this is very early times, is probably somebody who is really generally low level, probably is a German by birth, and probably has become just radicalized because he searches for meaning in his life, but not somebody who has traveled afar, who really has deep ties with terrorist organizations. But this is speculation. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that profile.
Rahpel, thanks so much. Deputy Head of Research Division at the EU and Europe for the German Institute for International and Security Affairs. Many thanks for joining us today. Clearly a very sad day, but clearly a topic that demands more discussion. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, before we go, let me bring you up to date with what we know right now. And that is that a white van drove into a crowd on Saturday at 10 p.m. on Saturday night local time in Berlin's central Tiergarten Park. One person was killed and another 16 injured, some seriously. Police are conducting a manhunt for a 21-year-old suspect, Abdul B. A second suspect has not been ruled out of the investigation at this point. Germany's Chancellor Merz has described it as a heinous act. And that's where we leave this live stream for now. Police remain looking for the suspect. They're warning the public not to approach. We will have updates on this matter as they come to hand. Updates will be published on our social media channels and through our TV output through the day as they come to hand. Whether you're watching on YouTube, TikTok, there will be many ways to stay on top of this story as it develops. From myself and Rahpel Bossong in the studio here, and Jules, our reporter on the scene, a big thank you as we say bye for now.